The Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus tells the legend about Amleth, a prince of Jutland, in his Danish chronicles that were written just before year 1200. Around 1590 the legend was used by William Shakespeare as raw material for the tragedy Hamlet. Even though Shakespeare rewrote the legend and moved it from Jutland to Elsinore, the outline is still recognizable. In the legend Denmark, or maybe just a Jutland, ruled by a number of minor kings is described. This probably means that Amleth lived around year 400 or a bit earlier. The summary of the legend that follows is translated more or less directly from Denmark's History, Book 2, Normanerdiden. The chieftain's son Norvendel was chosen by King Rorik as Landvernsmand, leader of the territorial forces, in Jutland together with his brother Fench. Some years later, Orvendel married the king's daughter and they had the son Amleth. Orvendel's marriage and the high esteem he held made Fench envious. He murdered Orvendel and forced the widow to marry him. Since the murder could not be kept secret, Fench spread the rumor that he could not stand the cruelty his brother showed his wife. The son, Amleth, knew that his life would be in danger if Fench suspected that he had any thoughts of revenge. Amleth decided to play mad. He lay by the fireplace, played with the ashes and smeared himself with dirt and trash. He cut some wooden hooks, tempered them in fire and told people that the hooks were weapons for revenge. Fench, however, was not convinced and attempted to blow Amleth's cover several times. Since Fench assumed that Amleth's mother was a person Amleth would be honest with, he arranged for a spy to watch a meeting between Amleth and his mother while he, Fench, was on a trip. The spy hid under a pile of hay in the hall, but Amleth became suspicious when he saw the hay. He started crowing like a rooster, jumping around the hay until he was sure where the spy hid. He then stabbed at the hay with his sword, killing the spy. He then butchered the body, boiled it, and fed it to the pigs. After this his mother came into the hall. She exclaimed on how stupid he acted, but Amleth was now able to respond, "Disgraceful woman. You threw yourself into the arms of your husband's murderer and married him. It is with good reason I act mad. The one who kills his brother may also want the life of his brother's son. The cloak of stupidity hides me till the time comes. You, my mother, should cry. Not for my madness, but for your own disgrace." The words affected Amleth's mother greatly and she started regarding her relationship with Fench as a disgrace. When Fench returned, he asked for his spy, but nobody knew where he was. When Amleth was asked, he answered that he had seen the pigs eat him. Everyone laughed at the fool. Fench became more fearful of his stepson, and decided to send him to England to visit the king. Fench planned to instruct the king to kill Amleth upon his arrival. Amleth agreed to go to England, but told his mother that, after 1 year, she should hold a funeral feast as if he was dead and that the walls should be covered with blankets on the occasion. Fench chose 2 trusted men to accompany Amleth. The message to the English king had the form of a rune staff. Amleth was able to find and change the message while the 2 companions slept, so that the message read that the companions should be killed and that Amleth should have the king's daughter in marriage. Amleth was welcomed in England. He stopped playing dumb and acted so wise, that the king had no second thoughts about letting him marry his daughter. Fench's 2 men were hanged. While Amleth in no way regretted it, he asked his father-in-law to pay guilt for their deaths. He then melted the gold he was paid into 2 hollowed-out staffs. Amleth spread the rumor that he had died, but exactly 1 year after his departure, he was back home in Jutland. As agreed upon, the funeral feast was taking place and he entered the hall alone, only carrying his 2 staffs. He acted mad again, and whenever anybody asked him where the companions were, he pointed at his staffs and said one is here, the other there. While drinking he fumbled with his sword and cut one of his fingers. To ensure that it did not happen again, his sword was nailed to its sheath. At last everybody was drunk and went to sleep on the floor. Amleth found his old wooden hooks, pulled the blankets from the walls and used the hooks to fasten them around the sleepers. He then set fire to the hall. King Fench had retired to his own chambers earlier. Amleth had switched their swords during the funeral feast and now arrived at the king's chambers. He told his stepfather that he had returned with his wooden hooks and that the king's men were being burned. Fance tried to draw his sword, but it was stuck and he was killed by Amleth. Next morning people were milling around the burned-down castle where the bodies of Fance and his men were found. Amleth announced what had happened and how he had to act mad for years to get his revenge. The people found that Amleth had acted rightly and chose him as Fance's successor. Later on, when King Rorik died and was succeeded by King Vigilek, Amleth fought him. In one of the battles Amleth was killed and Saxel tells us that his barrow was set on the heath in Jutland that bears his name. Saxel was probably thinking of Amleth, southeast of Randers.